Hello, my name is Aaron, welcome to another video. Today we are looking at the best settings for wildlife photography on Sony Alpha cameras. Now before we get started, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. So yeah, we're going to be looking at what I think are the best settings for wildlife photography on Sony Alpha cameras. Now all the photos that I've taken in this video and the settings that you'll see on the screen are taken from the Sony a5100. However, these settings will also be applicable to the other Sony A cameras, so that includes the Sony a6000, the a6300, the a6400 and the a6500. So I'm going to show a few examples here of what your images may look like if you leave them on the automatic setting. So that's things like automatic autofocus, automatic shutter speed, automatic ISO and such like. You'll see that you'll maybe get a good one, but if your subject is moving quickly, as wildlife often will be, you'll get blurry, out of focus images which are basically unusable or look unprofessional. So we're going to go through now the best settings that I think that will improve the quality of wildlife images, and you could also use these settings for things like sporting videos where often the conditions are fairly similar. So first up, I would recommend that you use a quick memory card. So that's an SD-XC memory card, which is the faster writer speed. This means that if you need to take a lot of photos in quick succession, which is very useful for wildlife photography, you can write that data to the memory card quicker so you can take more shots. I've mentioned that specifically because the first setting that we're going to be looking at is the drive mode, and we're going to be setting that to continuous high. This basically means as you hold the shutter down, the camera will continue to take photos at a quick pace so you can capture your subject moving, which is ideal if you are trying to catch a certain point or you're not sure exactly when the subject is going to move or something like that. It will keep taking photos as long as you're keeping the shutter button pressed down. To get to this setting, you simply just press left on the control wheel here and you'll see your other drive mode settings, but if you select continuous and high, then that is the best setting for this. The next setting is ISO settings. ISO, as I've mentioned in earlier videos, is the amount of extra light that is added to your images artificially. We're going to set this to auto, which is simple enough. It means that your camera will automatically be assessing the amount of light that is naturally available in the shot and adding and removing it as appropriate. To get to this, you simply just press right on the wheel and you'll see you have your ISO options and auto is at the top. Next up, we're going to change the focus mode to continuous autofocus, or AFC as it is called in the menus. For a full explanation of all the different focus modes, check out this video here where I've gone through all of them in more detail. But for now we're going to choose continuous autofocus, which means that your camera is going to keep trying to autofocus on your subject once you have set it. To get to this setting, you go to Camera Settings, tab 3, and then the third option down is Focus Modes, and then you change that to AFC, Continuous Autofocus. You choose your point of focus by half pressing the button and you'll see these little green indicators showing that this is the area that it is trying to focus on. So you may need to set this a couple of times, but once you have set that and then you begin shooting, your camera will continue to try and focus on that point in your composition. Next up, we're going to change the focus area settings to Lock On AF, which is autofocus lock on. There's a couple of options that you can change here depending on your scene, but by pressing left and right once you're on this setting, you can choose flexible spot. I would use this if your subject is going to be in a certain part of your composition and not necessarily going to move from there, or you can use center if you're going to be tracking your subject and it's going to be roughly staying in the center of your composition. To get to the focus area settings, you go to Camera Settings on the menu, then tab 3, then Focus Area, and then when you get down to Lock On AF, you can then move left and right as mentioned earlier to change between flexible spot and other auto options. Next quick setting is make sure that you have steady shot on. This is just going to give you the best chance of keeping your camera as steady as possible, especially if you're tracking by hand or zoomed in quite closely to your subject. So to double check that this is turned on, go to Camera Settings and then tab 7 and then Steady Shot is there at the bottom. Next up is possibly the most important setting, which is to set your camera to shutter priority. This means that you are choosing how quickly your shutter is closing, allowing so much light into the image so you can take a shot with minimal blur. So once you've changed the shoot mode to shutter priority, you can just use the wheel to increase or decrease your shutter speed. For wildlife photography, you need to experiment a little bit, but for these shots that I've taken here, I've used shutter speeds of about 800 to about 1250, which is basically how quickly the shutter is moving down. So the quicker this is, the less light there is, so this is where your automatic ISO is bumping up the amount of light in your shot, but it means you should be able to capture a shot without those traces of movement. To change the shoot mode, you simply just press the center button on the wheel, or you can go to camera settings and then tab 1 and it is the top option there. As I said, you should experiment a bit with this, but starting at about 800th of a second is a good starting point for wildlife photography. As I mentioned, all the shots that I've taken that I've used on this video I took on the A5100, and the lens that I've used is the Sony 55 to 210mm telephoto lens. If you're interested in this lens, I've done a more in-depth review of it here, but you can also use this kind of shooting using the kit lens or other autofocus lens that you've got, but you probably do want a bit of zoom to help close in on your subject matter. So are there any settings that you use for wildlife photography that you think I've missed or you think might be useful? Let me know in the comments below. But that's it from me for now. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and drop a like on the video. But till next time, see ya.